You've been hoaxed by the Albanese Labor government. This is astonishing, it's very serious, and it's going to cost us billions. You were hoaxed this week, specifically by the new Environment Minister, Tanya Plibersek, when she handed down a 5-year State of the Environment report commissioned by the government. And I'm going to reveal something about this bizarre report released a couple of days ago that no one else has pointed out and probably didn't dare. We're talking here about a report which the media claimed was written by top scientists, a report that was truly shocking, that showed that our land and wildlife were being destroyed, a report that the ABC told us, and note this very well, was written by 30 independent scientists from around Australia. Note that. A report written by independent scientists, whose findings Minister Plibersek accepted without question. She promoted them, in fact, as the last word on what experts were telling us about our environment, and that word was grim.
The report is indeed very disturbing reading. It says that our environment is in a poor state and it's getting worse.
In fact, Plibersek relied on this report, the one by more than 30 independent scientists, to announce a massive new promise. This government is going to lock away 30% of this country so it can't be developed. That is 50% more land locked away than we have already got in parks and reserves.
When we're talking about protecting 30% of our land, that's absolutely critical for giving threatened species the habitat they need to survive. As your report mentioned, seen massive mammal extinction in Australia, the worst in the world, really.
Now, the cost of creating all those parks, buying out, say, farmers and loggers, and more importantly, managing these massive new areas so they don't become fire traps overrun with weeds and feral animals like a number of other parks already, the cost of all that is obviously going to be huge. But Plibersek said this report persuaded her this is necessary, and who can quarrel with science? But here's the thing. This is not the work of more than 30 independent scientists. Many of the authors are actually activists. In fact, Aboriginal activists, or storytellers, or curators, or culture warriors. And the authors who are scientists are, for the most part, not independent. Many are warmists of long standing, almost all working for government or government agencies. Not a single sceptical scientist was chosen to contribute to this project. Now, when you look at who was chosen, you will understand that a lot of this report is not science at all. It's a new green religion with New Age Aboriginal spirituality. For instance, all the chapters start with a quotation not of science, but of what you might probably assume the way it was presented was, old Aboriginal wisdom. The chapter on climate, for instance, starts, "Listen to country fighting for the day after tomorrow. People arise to heal country, to live." And if that's an ancient Aboriginal saying, I'm a kangaroo. But let me show you some of the authors of this report that boasts it relies, in fact, not just on science, but also what it calls Indigenous knowledge systems. And so, the 3 lead authors include 2 scientists, yes, but also Terry Yankee, a lawyer described as an Aboriginal woman and an international authority on Indigenous culture, cultural and intellectual property. Now, personally, I thought this was about science, not culture. But let's just go to that chapter on climate and climate change. Only one of the 3 authors of that chapter is a qualified scientist. The other 2, Damien Moran-Bullard, described as a proud Yorta Yorta man, again Aboriginal, who's worked within the cultural heritage and natural resource management field. The other is Sonia Cooper, a Yorta Yorta woman, again apparently chosen above all for her race, who says that she has a strong interest in culture, the environment, science, policy, law, contracts and geopolitics, but she has not yet finished even a Bachelor of Science degree. Yet she's writing reports to the government on the state of our environment. I could go through every chapter of this report, and it's the same story. New Age Aboriginal mysticism, Aboriginal activism runs right through this. Authors who seem to have been chosen for their race above any scientific qualification, or so it seems to me. For instance, the important chapter on extreme events. One of the two authors is another activist who identifies as Aboriginal, says he believes strongly in the role of Aboriginal culture as a keystone to maintaining livelihoods, supporting identity, connection to country and enabling healthy communities. He too doesn't have qualifications in science. He has a Bachelor of Arts in adult education and community management. And on it goes. One of the authors of two chapters, in fact, is someone who says that she too is Aboriginal and she too is not a scientist, but a self-described writer and curator, passionate about truth-telling. Another of the authors is a senior official of the Green Group Worldwide Fund for Nature. Oh, and is Aboriginal. How could a report written with such an obvious and predetermined agenda, the environment is terrible, repent, learn Aboriginal ways, how can they be taken so seriously by the government as the latest scientific report on our environment and how it's being ruined by global warming? This is a fix. The conclusions of this report, they were entirely predictable and cannot be taken seriously. Yet, and this is the scary thing, yet Tanya Plibersek, our new Environment Minister, did take it seriously, or at least pretended to. Now, just why she swallowed this nonsense and presented it as, the word of experts, I don't know. Maybe she's just trying to get attention after Prime Minister Anthony Albanese humiliatingly demoted her to the environment portfolio. But Plibersek, in that job, can cause a lot of damage if she keeps going with this new religious crusade relying on people like this. For instance, she has now frozen work on a $4.5 billion project in Western Australia that would make fertiliser that our farmers desperately need. There's a worldwide shortage. And she's frozen it because a few Aboriginal activists claim that emissions from the project, which other elders have backed, could somehow hurt nearby cave paintings. That's denied by the company, but who cares what the science really says anymore? Because our Environment Minister cannot seem to tell the difference between science and religion. And now you are going to pay.